It's all about perception. Those are wise words from a young man who finds himself among the hundreds of young people who, for one reason or another, come home early from an LDS mission. How these early return missionaries are perceived by their peers, their family, and even perceived by themselves can make all the difference in how they live the rest of their lives. It's an emotional issue affecting many families here in our community. Here's an eye-opening look through the eyes of two young adults who live with that stigma every day.
I am Mackenzie Giles. I am a special education major at BYU.
My name is Dane Ostergaard, and I'm 20 years old. Right now I'm just working,
and I'm an early return missionary. I was called to serve in the Adriatic North Mission, which is Croatia, Bosnia, Serbia, Slovenia, and now Montenegro.
And I was called to Buenos Aires, Argentina.
About 2.5 months into being, no, I guess it was 3.5 months of being in Bosnia, I started having headaches. The headaches were going 24 hours. I'd wake up in the middle of the night and have them. I was getting nauseous and dizzy, blindness. It was really prohibiting me from doing the work.
I've had anxiety my whole life. When I have an anxiety attack, it feels like I can't breathe. I can't think. Someone is squeezing my mind and my whole body, and I can't function. And that's how it was in the MTC.
But eventually it was decided between the mission president and the area medical doctor and myself and the Lord that it was time for me to come home and try to get better. It was 6 months exactly from the day that I entered the MTC that I came home.
I entered the MTC October 10th, and I was only in the MTC for a week, so I came home October 17th. I felt like a failure.
I felt like I had done something wrong. Depression and anxiety about going out in public, oh my heavens. The grocery store was just the bane of my existence. I didn't want to see anybody because then they would ask, oh my gosh, you're home, why are you home?
Every little girl, they dream of marrying that return missionary and having that perfect life. And when I came home, I didn't think I was worthy to experience that love.
Luckily, I was blessed with a supportive family, extended family, and friends. Kako rekao o vjeri, vjera je ni imati savršeno spoznaju o noćemu. But when it came down to it, I felt guilty. I couldn't even read them because I felt like, why am I here and why am I not there?
Before my mission, I was the type of person that looked at an early return missionary and thought, what did he do to get here? Which is ridiculous.
It changes your mind about what your mission really is. It's not about the badge. It's not about how long you serve, but it's about with the dedication that you're going to live your life from those experiences that you learn on your mission.
This whole life is about change. I think we can make a difference and make everyone feel loved.
Joining me now to dig deeper into this topic is Studio 5 contributor and owner of Wasatch Family Therapy, Julie Hanks, and also UVU Assistant Professor Chris Doty, who has done research on this issue. Thank you both for being here. A little emotional watching that piece. Yes. You both have different, but I think passionate connections to this topic. Julie, first to kick this off for us, why should you care about this issue whether you are LDS or not?
Well, it affects everyone in our community here in Utah. If you live in Utah, you know someone who has served a mission and who has come home early. So these are our friends, our neighbors, our co-workers.
And Chris, we heard from Dane there in that story that he really felt that he had failed, and he said that he kind of put himself into the category of missionaries who came home and said, oh, they must have done something bad. But you surveyed more than 300 young adults, both women and men, and that's not usually the case, is it?
No, in fact, we found that less than a quarter of the kids that come home from missions early come home for any reason it has anything to do with their own personal choices. The vast majority of them come home for physical and mental health reasons.
And that feeling of failure that they talked about, is that pretty common from the kids that you talked to and surveyed?
Yeah, the shocking thing for me in the survey was that 73% of the kids that were surveyed said that they had feelings of failure, and this was regardless of the reason that they came home.
Julie, nobody wants to feel like a failure. No one wants their child to feel like a failure. So what can we do as neighbors, as friends, as family members to kind of reverse that emotion?
Yeah. I think it's so important, Brooke, to celebrate their service. Whether it was 1 day, 5 weeks, 6 months, celebrate their service. I mean, how amazing that they were willing to put themselves out there and to serve and go somewhere foreign and have this experience. Celebrate whatever that was and make that be the focus. I think that's really, really important. It's also, I think, important, excuse me, as parents especially and family members, not to make it about us, like, oh, I've failed. It's not about you. This is, you know, a child who's in pain and suffering for some reason, this young adult, and it's not about you. It's not about anything you did wrong or, you know.
You say there's a great listening opportunity here, which doesn't surprise me coming from a therapist. But you say in this particular moment, listening becomes really important and very key.
Yeah, I think these young kids need to talk about their experiences in a way that they feel supported and loved and valued, not shamed or, you know, I'm so disappointed in you. I mean, they need to tell their story and what it was like for them.
Chris, you're nodding your head in agreement there. You actually come from a very personal perspective toward this topic. You're the mother of 2 early return missionaries. Yes. How did you get them to open up and share their emotions and to crack open the conversations in the way that Julie suggests?
You know, when I have to admit I did not handle it well as a parent, and so this was part of what spurred me on to do this type of research. And I talked with my son just the other night, my older son, about it, and he said, Mom, if you would have just sat me down and just let me tell my story start to finish, then it would have gone so much better, and it would have been easier for me to adjust. So that I echo Julie's sentiments here too, that we just have to, as parents, create a really warm, non-judgmental and caring environment for our kids to be able to sit down and say, look, this is what I've been through and this is how I'm feeling, and that they can feel like we're going to support them regardless of what the reasons are.
Well said, very well said. We talk about this feeling of failure these kids experience. I imagine they also feel a little bit lost. In their heads, they had their next 2 years or their 18 months planned out, and then that obviously didn't happen the way they thought. Julie, you say it's important to let them decide the next step. What do you mean by that?
It's really important. In working with early return missionaries and families in clinical practice, a lot of young adults feel pressure, like, oh, I have to go back out there. I've got to get my act together. And that may not be what's in their best interest. And so I think as a community and as families, it's important to let them lead the way in what's next for them. Maybe it's going back out, but maybe it's not. Maybe it's starting school or working, whatever. That needs to be their decision. They lead the way. We can't pressure that. It's so individual.
I cringe a little bit when I heard that beautiful young woman describe going to the grocery store and that being the absolute bane of her existence, because she was dreading running into people and having to explain herself. And if we were to describe this as a trial or a challenge, we all face trials or challenges in one way or the other. Would you guys agree that there's something to be said for these young adults having to own the awkwardness a little bit and coming up with something to say and how to express themselves in a way they're comfortable with? That responsibility kind of falls on them a little bit too.
Yeah, I think, you know, if they are compassionate with themselves and are able to say, yeah, this was a really difficult experience, and just own that and look people in the eye and not feel shame or like now something's wrong with me or I'm bad or I'm a failure. Let's go, yeah, you know, I really struggled and it was in my best interest to come back. How are you, neighbor so-and-so? That puts everybody else at ease. It's like, oh, we can actually talk about that.
Right, it makes everyone else comfortable if they can own it a little bit. Still hard, still difficult, really still uncomfortable, but maybe makes the situation that much easier. And Chris, from your experience, the support that we're talking about, how much of a difference does that make for these early return missionaries?
It's huge, because so many of them come home and they're feeling bad enough, they're feeling very hypersensitive about how they must appear to other people. And if we can come out as parents and as neighbors and people in the community and just unconditionally accept them and love them and honor them for their service, we make their adjustments so much better.
Well, thanks to the both of you. It's a touchy and tender subject. Any last parting thoughts? Any words of advice?
Oh, I just want to tell those early return missionaries that they're loved, and it's okay. We're all on this journey together.
Thank you both. We appreciate it. We'll let you know if you'd like to read more about Chris's research on early return missionaries. You can go to our website, studio5.ksl.com.